What is the meaning of nema, the thread? Now as we observe the nematoda, here three germ layers are present called triploblastica. During the development, the blastopore becomes mouth, hence called protostomia. In the nematoda, what type of symmetry is present? Bilateral symmetry. With the help of one division plane, we are getting the antemeres. What are the important characters of nematoda? In the nematoda, the body is covered and protected by cuticle. The cuticle is mainly made by collagen. The collagenous cuticle is present only in case of nematoda. In the nematoda, majority of animals are unisexual, male and female separate. Only one animal is bisexual, that is Caenorhabditis. How we can identify the male animal? In male animal, the posterior end is pointed and curved, whereas in case of female, the posterior end is pointed and straight. In case of male animal, the cloaca, copulatory spicules and copulatory papillae are present. What is the function of copulatory papillae? At the time of copulation, they bring sexual excitement in case of the female. What is the function of copulatory spicules? At the time of copulation, the male with the help of copulatory spicules release sperms into the female body. In case of nematoda, what is the body organization? Organ system body organization. In addition to, in the phylum nematoda, we have to observe tube within tube body organization. The body wall is in the form of outer tube, whereas the alimentary canal is in the form of another tube. From nematoda onwards, as we observe the alimentary canal, the alimentary canal has mouth and anus, whereas in case of platyhelminthes, in the class turbal area, only in few examples mouth and anus present. But from nematoda onwards up to human being, we have to observe a complete alimentary canal. From the nematoda onwards, what type of organization we have to observe? Tube within tube body organization. Another important character of nematoda is the tissues are cellular or syncytial. What is the meaning of this cellular and syncytial? This is characterized by species specific number of cells or nuclei. What is the meaning of species specific number of nuclei or cells? In the nematoda, each species having specific number of cells and specific number of nuclei. What is the reason for that condition? The reason is we call it as utili. What is the meaning of utili? In the nematoda, in the adult stage, the somatic cells do not undergo any division. Only the germ cells can undergo division. In the phylum nematoda, what type of digestion is going to observe? In the phylum nematoda, generally we have to observe the inter or extracellular digestion. What is meant by inter or extracellular digestion? The digestion takes place outside the cell, inside the alimentary canal. In the phylum nematoda, what about the excretion? The excretion is brought by excretory glands or excretory canal or both. In case of larval stage, what is the excretory cell? That we call it as the Rennetti cell. What about the adult stage? In the adult stage, H-shaped excretory canal is present. What about the nervous system? The nervous system is intraepithelial. That means the components of nervous system are present in the epithelial cells. And now, as we observe the development of nematodes, the male and female will undergo copulation. After completing the copulation, generally the male animal dies. As we observe the female animal, in the body of the female animal, the fertilization takes place. Generally, here the females are oviparous. But here one exception is present, that we call it as dracunculus. That we call it as dracunculus. As we observe the dracunculus, it is the viviparous. What is the another example is Ochraria bancrafti. The Ochraria bancrafti is ovoviviparous. Remaining all nematodes are oviparous. Now as we observe the other characters of the nematoda, in all nematodes, at the anterior end of the body, what are the sense organs are present? The amphids. What about the posterior end? The sense organs are called phasmids. What is the unit for the classification of phylum Nematoda? The presence or absence of phasmids. And now, by taking these phasmids as a units, phylum Nematoda is classified into two subclasses. One we call it as A phasmidia and the second one we call it as phasmidia. Now as we observe the A phasmidia, in the A phasmidia the amphids are various shapes. In the A phasmidia the phasmids are absent. In the A phasmidia majority are free living and some are parasites. One best example for the A phasmidia is trichinella. What about the phasmidia? In the phasmidia amphids are present but they are pore-like. In the phasmidia what are present? The well-developed phasmids are present. What are the examples for the phasmidia? One example is Ascaris. The second one is Wuchereria bancrafti. The third one is Ankylostoma. And the fourth one is Dracunculus, etc. All these are come under the phasmidia. And now, regarding the MSET point of view, what are the important questions in the phylum Nematoda? As we observe the Nematoda, here the body organization is not complicated. Why the body organization is not complicated? The mesoderm, the muscles and connective tissue are completely confined to the body wall. Whereas as we observe the alimentary canal, only the pharynx is muscular and the remaining part is non-muscular. So that here the alimentary canal does not perform any peristaltic movements. And now, as we observe the important character of Nematoda, in order to keep one animal under Nematoda, what is the important character? The pseudocoelom. What is meant by pseudocoelom? The body cavity is not lined by mesodermal epithelia. This pseudocoelom is the derivative of blastocoel. What is the other name? Primary body cavity or segmentation cavity. Here, no circulatory system. How the nutrients are transported? The pseudocoelomic fluid performs transportation and gives support, and the pseudocoelomic fluid acts as hydraulic or hydrostatic skeleton. These are the important characters and classification of phylum Nematoda. Now we have to discuss the next one. We call it as Annelida. The next phylum we call it as Annelida. Now as we observe the characters of Annelida, what is the taxonomic position of Annelida, the phylum? The word Annelida was proposed by J.B. Lamarck, and we know very well the word biology also proposed by J.B. Lamarck. Annelida word also proposed by J.B. Lamarck. Philosophy Zoologic book also written by J.B. Lamarck. Inheritance of acquired characters, use and disuse principle, influence of environment. All these points are explained by J.B. Lamarck. Now as we observe the Annelida, in the Annelida all are triploblastic, 3 germ layers are present. And in the phylum Annelida, what type of coelom is present? A true coelom. What is meant by true coelom? The coelom externally, internally covered and protected by mesodermal epithelia. So, in the MSET, what is the first eucoelomate phylum? Annelida. But in case of Annelida, Arthropoda, mollusca, the coelom is formed by splitting of mesoderm. Such type of coelom we call it as schizocoelom. So, what is the first schizocoelomate phylum? Annelida. Here also, what type of symmetry is present? The bilateral symmetry. In case of Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, Annelida, Arthropoda, mollusca, during the course of development, the blastopore becomes mouth, so-called protostomians. And now, what are the protostomians regarding the MSET point of view? Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, Annelida, Arthropoda, and mollusca. Now, in the Annelida, what are the first characters developed? True segmentation first developed in the Annelida. What about the Platyhelminthes? In the Platyhelminthes, in the class Cystoda, we have to observe the pseudometamerism. What is the meaning of true metamerism or a true segmentation? In all true segmented animals, the new segments added from the posterior end of the body. Now, in the Annelida, the closed blood vascular system first developed. What is meant by closed blood vascular system? The blood flows in definite blood vessels, that we call it as closed blood vascular system. Closed blood vascular system first developed in Annelida. True segmentation first developed in Annelida. What about the cephalization? Already we learned one point. Cephalization first developed in the turbal area, but in the turbal area the cephalization is moderate, whereas in the phylum Annelida the cephalization is true. At the anterior end of the body a distinct head with sense organs is present. Such true cephalization first developed in the phylum Annelida. And now what are the other characters of phylum Annelida? In the Annelida, as we observe the body wall is dermomuscular. What is the meaning of dermomuscular? The body wall consisting dermis and muscles. What type of muscles are present? Circular and longitudinal muscles are present. And now in the phylum Annelida, as we observe the body wall consisting the cuticle. Here the cuticle having one is gelatin, collagen and mucopolysaccharides. But in case of nematoda, in the cuticle what is only present? The collagen is only present. But here the cuticle consisting the collagen, gelatin and mucopolysaccharides. Now in the phylum Annelida, what are the main locomotory organs? The setae. The setae are made by chitin. They are derived from ectoderm. But in case of some annelids, what are the locomotory organs? The bilobed structure called parapodia. On parapodia many setae are present. Now in the phylum Annelida, what is the main respiratory pigment? That is hemoglobin. In case of phylum Annelida, as we observe the circulatory system, in the circulatory system what type of cells are totally absent? The RBC absent. Though RBC absent, what is present? The hemoglobin. The hemoglobin is dissolved in the blood plasma. But in case of vertebrates, without RBC there is no hemoglobin. But in case of invertebrates, without RBC, hemoglobin present. The best example is Annelida. In case of Annelida, what type of digestion is present? The digestion is mainly inter or extracellular. Digestion takes place outside the cell and inside the alimentary canal. What about the respiratory organs? Generally in the annelids, the main respiratory organ is the mucus loaded body wall. Exchange of gases takes place through general body surface. But in case of polychaetes, the vascularized parapodia also act as gills. But these are not the true gills. The vascularized parapodia act as gill and they help in the respiration. In the phylum Annelida, during the course of development, we have to observe the formation of egg case. For the formation of egg case, what is required? The clitellum is required. In some annelids, the clitellum is permanent. In some annelids, the clitellum is totally absent. In some annelids, the clitellum develops only during the breeding season. What is the function of clitellum? It produces egg case or cocoon. Now, as we observe the remaining characters, majority of annelids are bisexual and polychaeta, that is the only unisexual. In majority of annelids development, what is absent? The larva is absent. Absence of larva, that we call it as development is direct. But in case of polychaeta, the development is indirect, having what type of larva? That we call it as trochophore larva. In the phylum Annelida, during the development, what is the cleavage? That we call it as holoblastic. What is meant by holoblastic? Every time the zygote completely divides and the cleavage is unequal. What is meant by unequal cleavage? Because of the cleavage, two different kinds of cells will be formed. One we call it as macromeres and the second one we call it as micromeres. And the cleavage is also said to be spiral and the cleavage is also determinate. What is meant by determinate cleavage? The feta blastomere is known earlier. And now, what about the nervous system? In all annelids, as we observe the nervous system, around pharynx, what is present? The nerve ring. What type of nerve cord is present? The double ventral solid nerve cord. On nerve cord, how the ganglia are present? They are arranged segmentally. such type of phylum Annelida, how it reproduces excretion. In all annelids, what are the main excretory organs? The nephridia. What are the functions of nephridia? The nephridia perform osmoregulation, excretion and reabsorption of water. In addition to the nephridia, what are the other excretory cells? The chlorogogen cells. What is the main function of chlorogogen cells? Only excretion. What is the difference between nephridia and chlorogogen cells? The nephridia derived from ectoderm, whereas the chlorogogen cells are derived from the mesoderm. Here, the free chlorogogen cells are called ileocytes. What is the difference between the chlorogogen cells and ileocytes? Chlorogogen cells are stationary, whereas ileocytes are free moving. Now, such phylum Annelida is classified into how many classes? 3 classes. What is the unit for the classification of Annelida? We call it as the Setae. Phylum Annelida is classified into 3 classes. One we call it as Polychaeta, second one we call it as Oligochaeta, and the third one we call it as Hyrudinea. But regarding the MSET point of view, Annelida, that is also one class of phylum Annelida, but we are not discussing separately the class Annelida. The main classes are Polychaeta, Oligochaeta and Hyrudinea. Now in these 3 classes, what is the biggest class? Polychaeta. What is the second biggest class? Oligochaeta. Now in the Polychaeta, some animals live in burrows, some animals live in tubes. Majority of polychaetes are marine forms. As we observe the Oligochaeta, in the Oligochaeta, all annelids are fossorial. They live in burrows. What about the Hyrudinea? It is very, very peculiar. In this class, the body is dorsoventrally flattened. In the class Hyrudinea, limited number of segments are present. Number of segments are 33. And each segment is subdivided. They are called annuli. Now, as we observe the Polychaeta, in the Polychaeta, all are unisexual. The male and the female separate. In the Polychaeta, the cephalization is very, very distinct. Whereas in the Oligochaeta and Hyrudinea, the cephalization is totally absent. In the Polychaeta, what are the main locomotory organs? Parapodia with setae. Whereas in Oligochaeta, what are the locomotory organs? Setae. Whereas in case of Hyrudinea, such type of structures are totally absent. In Hyrudinea, what are the structures responsible for the attachment and locomotion? Suckers. How many suckers are present? 2 suckers are present. In case of Polychaeta, the clitellum is totally absent. In Oligochaeta, the clitellum is permanent. In Hyrudinea, the clitellum develops during the breeding season. In case of Polychaeta, as we observe, the gonoducts. Gonoducts. What are the gonoducts? The vasa deferentia and oviducts are totally absent. Because of the absence of gonoducts, in the class Polychaeta, the gametes release into the marine water with the help of what type of structures? The metanephridia. In case of Oligochaeta and Hyrudinea, the gonoducts, gonopores are permanent. And in case of Polychaeta, the development takes place outside the body in the marine water. Here, in the development, the larval form present, that we call it as trochophore. Now, what is one example for the Polychaeta? Nereis, Catopterus, and next Unis, etc. All these are the examples of Polychaeta. As we observe the Polychaeta, in the Polychaeta, there is no question of formation of egg case or cocoon. In case of Oligochaeta, egg case cocoon present. In case of Hyrudinea, also egg case or cocoon present. But what is the difference? In case of Oligochaeta, from the body, the sperms and ova release into the egg case. Whereas in case of Hyrudinea, here what is present? The copulatory organ, that we call it as the cirrus. The cirrus is also present in the platyhelminthes. With the help of copulatory organ, because of the presence of copulatory organ, in case of Hyrudinea, the fertilization is internal. So, in the Hyrudinea, the zygotes directly release into the egg case or cocoon. Now in these three classes, as we observe the Hyrodinia, commonly known as leeches, here all annelids are commonly known as the earthworms. Here the annelids are commonly known as the bristlewworms. Now in the class of Hyrodinia, the coelom is occupied by what type of tissue? That we call it as botryoidal tissue. According to some persons, what is the function of botryoidal tissue? Nutritive in function. But majority opinion is the botryoidal tissue function is excretion. Now in case of MSET, what is the function of botryoidal tissue? One option is excretion, one option is nutrition. The best option is the excretion. Now in the class of Hyrodinia, all are carnivores. In the Hyrodinia, all are ectoparasites. As we observe the Hyrodinia, these are ectoparasites. In their saliva, what is present? An anticoagulant, that we call it as iridine. As these animals suck the blood from the host, these are called the sanguivorous. Here, one exception is in the Oligoceta tubifex. Such earthworm lives in the fresh water. What is the largest earthworm? Megasqualidis. What is the smallest earthworm? Ketogaster. In South India, what is the longest earthworm? Dravida. But we have to discuss generally the Ferritima postuma. Under the genus Ferritima postuma, how many species are present? Near about 500 species. But in India, how many species are present? 18. What is the important species we discussed regarding the Oligoceta, the Ferritima postuma? And here Hyrodinia, one example is Hemodipsa, Acanthobdilla. All these are the examples of class Hyrodinia. Now we have to discuss the next one is phylum Arthropoda. The next one we call it as phylum Arthropoda. Now as we observe the phylum Arthropoda, what is the taxonomic position of Arthropoda in the kingdom Animalia? That we call it as phylum. Now regarding the MSET point of view, what are the important questions in the Arthropoda? In all aspects, what is the biggest phylum? The Arthropoda. Now among invertebrates, what are the invertebrates? Are true terrestrial invertebrates, Arthropoda. Why these are adapted for the terrestrial environment? In their body, water conservation methods are present. What is one example for these methods? In all arthropods, the body is covered and protected by chitinous cuticle that prevents the loss of water. And the second adaptation is presence of Malpighian tubules. They perform osmoregulation and excretion. And the third adaptation is the rectal papillae. They play an important role in the reabsorption of water. And in the thoracic and abdominal region, what are present? The spiracles. They also play an important role in the conservation of water. And the arthropodan animals generally excrete hypertonic excretory material to conserve the water. By all these methods, arthropodan animals are adapted for the terrestrial environment. In the Arthropoda, what type of muscles first developed? They are called voluntary muscles. What is the other name of voluntary muscles? Striped or striated muscles. How the voluntary muscles? They are in the form of the bundles. They act as levers. They play an important role in the process of locomotion. These voluntary muscles are attached to endoskeleton structures. Here what are the endoskeleton? That we call it as apodemes. In the phylum Arthropoda, as we observe the body wall, in the body wall, the first one we call it as cuticle, and the second one we call it as epidermis, and the third one we call it as basement membrane. The cuticle is classified into epicuticle, exocuticle and endocuticle. What is the importance of epicuticle? It is very important to allow only carbon dioxide but not the water. So the epicuticle is called the gateway of carbon dioxide. What about the exocuticle? Here only the pigments are present. This exocuticle is in the form of sclerites. At the time of molting, name the layer that removes first. That we call it as endocuticle. Now, What about the epidermis? In the epidermis, variety of cells are present. One is the glandular cells. The second one is trichogen cells. The third one is tormogen cells. And the fourth one we call it as inocytes. Here regarding the MSET, what are the cells deeply arranged in the epidermis? Inocytes. What is the main function of inocytes? That we call it as the wax. And now, in the phylum Arthropoda, ecdysis, it is also called molting. What is the significance of ecdysis regarding the MSET point of view? The growth. As long as cuticle is present, there is no growth. So periodically the cuticle is cast off. That process we call it as ecdysis or molting. In case of Arthropoda, what about the alimentary canal? The alimentary canal is elongated and coiled. In addition to the alimentary canal, what are present? Digestive glands. Here, one important point regarding the MSET point of view. The digestive glands first developed in the phylum Annelida. Now, in the phylum Arthropoda, the alimentary canal is longer than that of the body. So, here and there the alimentary canal is coiled. Associated with the alimentary canal, what are the excretory organs? The Malpighian tubules. In the alimentary canal, only one valve is present, that we call it as the stomodial valve. How many sphincters are present? Only one sphincter. Now, in the phylum Arthropoda, what about the circulatory system? It is purely open type. What is meant by open type? The blood flows in the sinuses or spaces. In case of Arthropoda, what type of cells are absent? RBC absent. Hemoglobin also absent. But in some arthropods, what is the respiratory pigment? The copper containing hemocyanin. Now as we observe the Arthropoda, what are the excretory organs? One we call it as Malpighian tubules. The second one we call it as coxal glands. The third one we call it as antennary or green glands. What about the respiratory organs? In arthropods, respiration is by trachea. But in some small arthropods, the respiration is through general body surface. In aquatic forms, gills, book gills, and in some animals, the book lungs are also present. Now, in the phylum Arthropoda, what about the nervous system? In case of Annelida, around pharynx nerve ring is present, but in case of phylum Arthropoda, the nerve ring is present around esophagus, present in the head region. In all invertebrates, what type of nerve cord is present? The double ventral solid nerve cord. On nerve cord, how the ganglia are arranged? Segmentally arranged. In the phylum Arthropoda, majority are unisexual, but here one exception is present. In the class Crustacea, as we observe, unisexual and bisexual animals are present. In the phylum Arthropoda, what type of egg is present? That we call it as centrolecithal. What is meant by centrolecithal egg? In the center of egg, what is present? The yolk is present. What type of cleavage is present? The meroblastic cleavage. Now we are getting a doubt. What is the meroblastic cleavage? Where yolk absent, there the cytoplasm and nucleus will undergo divisions. Such type of cleavage we call it as meroblastic cleavage. Now in the Arthropoda, during the development, what are present? The larval stages are present. So the development is said to be indirect. Now such phylum Arthropoda is classified into how many subphyla? 3 subphyla. The first one we call it as Trilobita, and the second one we call it as Chelicerata, and the third one we call it as Mandibulata. As we observe the Trilobita members are exclusively marine. They were present in the Paleozoic era. In the Trilobita, the body is divided into 3 lobes. One we call it as head, and the second one we call it as thorax, and the third one we call it as abdomen. That we call it as pygidium. In the Trilobita, what type of appendages are present? Biramous. Each appendage divides into 2. That we call it as biramous appendage. Here one example is Triarthurus and Dalmatides. The second subphylum we call it as Chelicerata. Now here one important one is name the arthropods in which antennae totally absent. Chelicerata. The subphylum Chelicerata, the body is divided into prozoma and opisthozoma. In the prosoma, 6 segments. In the opisthosoma, 13 segments. Totally 19 segments are present. Such chelicerata, why it got such name? In the chelicerata, the first pair of appendages are modified into chelicerae. They help in the feeding. So got the name chelicerata. Such chelicerata is classified into two classes. One we call it as Giphozoara and the second one we call it as Arachnida. What is the peculiarity of Giphozoara? Here the genital operculum is present. Here what are the respiratory organs? The book gills. Here the body is divided into prosoma, mesozoma, metazoma. The metazoma ends as telson. In case of Arachnida, all are terrestrial animals. In the Arachnida, the body is divided into prozoma, mesozoma, metazoma. But here what is absent? Telson absent. In the Arachnida, 4 pairs of legs are present, so called Arthropoda. In the Arachnida, in some animals, chelicerae and pectins are present. And in some Arachnida, what are also present? The pedipalps. But in the Arachnida, one exception is spider. In the spider, instead of chelicerae, what are present? The poisonous claws are present. Now in the Arachnida, one viviparous cannibalistic example is present, that we call it as the scorpion. Its scientific name is Pelamnius. The scorpion is viviparous and it is an example of cannibalism. Now mandibulata. What is the biggest subphylum in the phylum Arthropoda? The mandibulata. In the subphylum mandibulata, how many classes are present? 4 classes. One we call it as crustacea. It is followed by Chilopoda, followed by Diplopoda and Insecta. Now, as we observe the Insecta, in the class Insecta, 3 pairs of legs are present. Hence, it is called Hexapoda. What is the study of insects? Entomology. Now, as we observe the crustacea, in the crustacea also biramous appendages are present. Now, regarding the MSET point of view, what are the present day living arthropods having biramous appendages? Crustacea. What are the extinct arthropods having biramous appendages? That is Trilobita subphylum. In the class Crustacea, the genital pores are paired. In the class Crustacea, one more important character is 2 pairs of antennae are present. One pair of antennae are elongated, one pair of antennae are very small, they are called antennules. Now, in the class Crustacea, the head and thorax combinedly termed as cephalothorax. In the head region, how many segments are present? 5. In the class Crustacea, what are the excretory organs? Green glands. Why they are called antennary glands? Because they are present at the base of antennae. What is the important larval form in the class Crustacea? That is nauplius. Now in the class Crustacea, generally the respiration is brought by gills. But in the class Crustacea, in some crustacean animals, the body is very, very small. In those animals, the exchange of gases takes place through general body surface. And now, Chilopoda and Diplopoda, these two are combinedly termed as Myriapoda. Now, as we observe the Chilopoda and Diplopoda, in the Chilopoda, the body is dorsoventrally flattened. In Diplopoda, the body is cylindrical. In the Chilopoda, the segmentation is very, very, very clear. In case of Diplopoda, the segmentation is not clear. In case of Chilopoda and Diplopoda, what are the respiratory organs? Trachea. In Chilopoda and Diplopoda, the respiration is brought by trachea and excretion is brought by Malpighian tubules. As we observe the Chilopoda, these are purely carnivores, whereas in case of Diplopoda, these are detritus herbivore. It means they take the dead and decaying plant matter only. In the class Chilopoda, each segment having one pair of legs with claws. But in case of Diplopoda, such type of claws for the legs absent. In the Diplopoda, each segment, that means the body is divided into head and the trunk. Particularly in the trunk, each segment having 2 pairs of the legs, hence got the name Diplopoda. In the Chilopoda, Diplopoda, in these two classes, in some animals the genital pore is anterior, progoniata, and in some animals the genital pore is at posterior, that we call it as opistogoniata. What about the insecta? In the adult stage, as we observe the insecta, in the adult stage, how many segments are present? 19. But in the embryonic stage, how many segments are present? 20 segments are present. Here, what are the main excretory organs? The Malpighian tubules. What are the respiratory organs? Trachea. All are unisexual. As we observe the development, in the development, the larval stages are present. For example, in cockroach, what is the larva? That is the nymph. In bedbug, the larva is nymph. In pedicellus, the larva is nymph. In case of insecta, what are number of legs responsible for the locomotion? 3 pairs of legs. What is the main excretory product? The uric acid. Now, these are the important characters regarding the Nematoda, Annelida and Arthropoda. Now, we have to discuss some important bits regarding the Nematoda, Annelida and Arthropoda. We have to discuss some important bits with reference to Nematoda, Annelida and Arthropoda. Now, what is the first one? In the absence of blood vascular system, the nutrients from gut circulate in the body of nematodes through the pseudocoelomic fluid, because here there is no circulatory system, so that the pseudocoelomic fluid performs the transportation. What is the next question? The second one we call it as number of molts occur in the life cycle of nematodes. In all nematodes, during the development, the larvae of nematodes undergoes how many moltings? 4 moltings. After completing the 4 moltings, we are getting the adult or the mature stage. Now, go for the third question. What is the third question? Spiny structures that help in the copulation present near the cloacal aperture of male nematodes. In all male nematodes, at cloacal region, 2 copulatory spicules are present. In some, only 1 copulatory spicule is present. In some, 2 equal copulatory spicules. In some, 2 unequal copulatory spicules. Such copulatory spicules are called the pineal setae. Now, go for the next question. Lunar periodicity is exhibited in the reproduction of. What is meant by lunar periodicity? In some animals, the reproduction is associated with different stages of moon. That we call it as the lunar periodicity exhibited by Eunice, commonly known as Palaloworm. Now, the next question is locomotory structures in Polychaeta. In Polychaeta, the locomotion is mainly brought by bilobed parapodia. On parapodia, many setae are present. So, the parapodia with many setae is the locomotory structures in Polychaeta. Now, go for the 6th question. In the 6th question, the gill-like structures in some polychaetes. For example, in the polychaetes, the vascularized parapodia help in the respiration, whereas only parapodia help in the locomotion. Now, the 7th question is trilobites. This is the first subphylum in the phylum Arthropoda. The trilobites, nowadays they were absent. They were abandoned in which era? The Paleozoic era. Now, the next question is the 8th question. What is the habitat of trilobites? All trilobites are exclusively confined to the marine water. Now, the next question is biramous appendages. We already discussed. What are the biramous appendages? Each appendage divides into 2. The biramous appendages present in the extinct arthropods, that is Trilobita, and present day living arthropods class Crustacea. Now, the next one is body is trilobed. Why the subphylum got the name Trilobita? In Trilobita animals, the body is divided into 3 lobes: head, thorax and pygidium. That is also called abdomen. What is the next question? Now, Nerilla. We already discussed this one. In the phylum Annelida, 4 classes are present. But actually we discussed Polychaeta, Iridina and Oligochaeta. What are the primitive annelids? That we call it as Archaeannelida. Under Archaeannelida, the Nerilla present under Archaeannelida. Now the next question is, In small crustaceans, respiratory gas exchange through. In crustaceans, what are the main excretory organs? Gills. But in the class Crustacea, in small sized animals, the respiration takes place through general body surface. Now, what are the main respiratory organs? The body wall in small crustaceans. Now, the next question. Assertion. Segmentation in Arthropoda is heteronomous. New segments in arthropods are formed at posterior end. Now, what is the answer for this question? In case of Arthropoda, the segmentation is heteronomous. What is meant by heteronomous? Here, the head, thorax, abdomen dissimilar in their size, shape and function. Now, in case of Arthropoda, the new segments added from posterior end. From Annelida to human being, new segments added from the posterior end. Such type of segmentation we call it as true metamerism or true segmentation. So for this question, the correct answer is both are correct or explains A. Now the next one is, in the above, progoniata arthropods are. Now what is the answer for this question is, progoniata. What is the answer for this question is, progoniata means the genital pore present at the anterior end of the body. Now here the answer is, one example is Spirobolus and the second one we call it as Zoolus. Spirobolus and Zoolus, they come under the Diplopoda. Now the next question is, which of the following is applicable to Arthropoda with pectins? Now the answer is viviparous. Now, which of the following is applicable to the Arthropoda with pectins? We discussed this bit under the class Arachnida. In the class Arachnida, only one example for the viviparous, that we call it as scorpion. In the body of scorpion, what are present? The chelicerae and next pectins are present. What is the function of pectins? They help for the food collection as well as they act as sense organs. What is the next question? Now, assertion. In arthropods, appendages provide mechanical advantage for locomotion. Reason. Appendages are jointed and act as lever systems. Now, as we observe the Arthropoda, in the Arthropoda, what type of muscles first developed? The striped or striated or voluntary muscles. They are in the form of the bundles. They act as levers. These bundles of the muscles attached to the endoskeleton and helps indirectly in the locomotion. So both are correct or explains A. Now what is the next question? Wrong pair in the following is, the first one is Palimon. Palimon means freshwater prawn. Here what are the sense organs? The statocyst, that is the correct. Chilopoda. One pair of clawed appendages for each trunk segment. In the class Chilopoda, body divided into segments, each segment having clawed appendages, that is also correct. Third one, Diplopoda. Here, each segment having two pairs of legs but without claws. Here, the third one is Diplopoda, two pairs of clawed appendages, that is the wrong one. Fourth one, Lepisma. Three pairs of legs in the thorax, that is correct because the Lepisma, it is an insect come under the class Insecta. For this question, what is the wrong option is the third one. Now we go for the next question. Phasmids are absent but excretory glands are present in the members of. We know very well, phylum Nematoda is classified into Aphasmidia and Phasmidia. In the Aphasmidia, what are absent? Phasmids are absent. In the Phasmidia, what are present? Phasmids are present. Now, here what is the answer? The second answer. Phasmids are absent but excretory glands are present in the members of Adenophoria. What is the other name of Adenophoria? That is Aphasmidia. Now, we go for the next question. Study the following. Progoniata, Opistogoniata, Malphizian tubules, saccate nephridia means sac-like nephridia, two pairs of maxillae, one pair of maxillae. Now these characters are related to Spirobolus. Now what is the answer for this question? As we observe this question, the answer is the second one. Here Spirobolus, that is come under the class Diplopoda. In the class Diplopoda, the genital pore present at the anterior end, that we call it as progoniata. and in the class Diplopoda the excretion is by Malpighian tubules, and in the class Diplopoda how many pairs of maxilla are present? One pair. Now the next question is H-shaped excretory system is seen in. Now in the phylum Nematoda, as we observe the excretion is in the form of excretory cell, Rennetti cell, or in the form of excretory gland, or in the form of H-shaped excretory canal. Now the H-shaped excretory canal is present in the phylum Nematoda. Here one example is the pinworm, that is come under the class Phasmidia. These are the important questions related to Nematoda, Annelida, Arthropoda. In the next class, we have to discuss Mollusca and Echinodermata.